I have a few housekeeping items to share with you. But first, let's give Donna Brazil another round of applause. Get ready for a day designed just for you that will address your interests, concerns, and needs. Be prepared for real talk, addressing pay equity and navigating the C-suite, and learn tips to remain authentic in the face of personal, political, and career challenges. Be sure to check out and take advantage of the amazing activities that our sponsors have created. Reconnect and recharge in the Power Lounge hosted by AT&T. Experience Toyota's Sensation Suite, an immersive experience for all of your senses. Visit the Spark Studio, hosted by Walmart, in partnership with the Main Choice for Hair, consultations, styling giveaways, and more. Join Merrill Lynch for a workshop designed to help you create solutions to the unique financial aspects of your life. For those who have signed up for the executive coaching, please be prompt and for your appointment. Download the Bizaboo app to stay up to date for all Women of Power of Summit activities. Continue to network and exchange experiences. Be sure to keep the conversation going. Tweet using hashtag BEWPS and join the BE Women of Power group on Facebook. Tweeting has its rewards. Lastly, I'd like to make you aware of two of our upcoming events, beginning with our Entrepreneur Summit, hosted by Nationwide. This year, we travel to Charlotte, North Carolina, June 6th through 9. And in partnership with Film Life, we extend an invitation to you to join us for the 22nd Annual American Black Film Festival, June 13 through June 17 at Lowe's Miami Beach Hotel in Miami, Florida. Please direct your attention to the video screen.
Be a part of the business revolution and take your business to the next level. Find out how at the Black Enterprise Entrepreneur Summit, hosted by Nationwide, where innovation and capital meet.
There are just a lot of dynamic people here who are great leaders.
It was a great opportunity for networking and just finding other like-minded individuals who support what you do.
It's been an amazing experience from start to finish.
Network with business professionals and learn how to brand your product in a competitive market.
You have to fail to succeed. You can't win without losing.
Don't get too diversified where you can't focus on your core asset.
You got to know your customer and then deliver to them what they want. If you do that, then you will be successful.
The Black Enterprise Entrepreneur Summit is coming to Charlotte, North Carolina, June 6th through the 9th, 2018, at the Charlotte Convention Center.
We need your genius.
Be there.
The American Black Film Festival hits Miami Beach June 13th through the 17th, 2018. Named one of the coolest film festivals in the world, it brings the who's who of Hollywood to Miami for 5 days of premieres, celebrity conversations, parties, master classes, and more. Come for high-powered networking and non-stop entertainment. Passes on sale now at abff.com. The 2018 American Black Film Festival, Miami Beach, June 13th through the 17th. Don't miss this summer's hottest event.
We hope many of you will join us, and please be sure to share the dates with the entrepreneurs in your life. It's time now to be stimulated anew with the presentation of the next discussions, Secrets of the C-Suite, Getting There, Staying There, and Making It Matter. Joining us are three world-class executives here to share their success strategies and paths to corporate advancements. Among them, our host and moderator for the intriguing session, please join me in welcoming the President of National Account Services and Client Experience for ADP, Debbie Dyson.
Okay, good morning, ladies. Good morning. I'm beginning to wonder who I didn't pay because yesterday I was asked to lead singing Happy Birthday. Like, are you out of your mind? And then now this morning I have to follow Donna Brazil. Like, really? But I will tell you one thing for sure as I bring out the two next dynamic ladies with me on stage. You will not hear me say anything about vajayjay or acid reflux or condom. That is not this kind of discussion, so we'll just leave that for Donna and we'll get to something a little bit more serious, so to speak. But yesterday morning I had the pleasure to meet these two ladies, and it's one of those things that I reflect back and wish I had obviously met them a little bit sooner. And if evidenced by the number of cups of coffee we had and tea, I think you're in for something very, very special. So real quickly, because we really want to just kind of jump in and get to the content of what we want to discuss. The first lady that I will be bringing out is Glenda McNeal, who has a career over 30 years at American Express. And clearly, you guys can look on the app and read the bio, et cetera, et cetera. She's just coming on out. Okay, well, go on, okay. Not done.
I do what I'm told.
Well, all righty then. Okay, well.
Most times.
This is clearly very impromptu. Well, there she is.
Here I am. Here I am.
So I guess I can just say clearly, a pioneer in her own right and an inspiration. All right. And then last night, you guys had the opportunity to hear from our other speaker, who was a Legacy Award honoree, which is Edith Cooper, who actually has a career as well. Are you coming out? Oh, come on out. Let's just go. As well. Here we go. So I think, again, from yesterday, as you all heard, when Edith was speaking, she really has a nice balance, not only of her personal life, as she was talking about her family, but very professional as well. And so on the stage here, ladies, you have over, I think it's 90 years of work experience. And so hopefully through our discussion over the next 40 minutes or so, again, no vajayjay, but we have other things to talk about throughout the morning. Okay? So why don't we go ahead and jump in? I think as we were talking over breakfast on how we wanted to set up our conversation, we're just going to kind of just go with the flow and see where things take us. But let us kind of just jump off and talk about, as you reflect on the various rises and roles that you've had, at the executive level, which again, if you read the bios, have been incredibly successful. What's that real pivotal moment? Like the moment in your career where you knew that if you didn't do this thing, you weren't going to be in the seat that you are today. Like, what was that moment? And can you tell me what it was, and then what did you actually learn from it?
I'm going to let you go. You're the Legacy Award winner.
I think they've heard enough of me.
No.
Yeah, so I guess it's a kind of a tough question because I've always believed that, you build your career as a continuum. And so is it one thing, or I had this lightning rod? Perhaps it was when I made the commitment to move to London to run a business with one of my colleagues who was on the ground there. I'd been at the firm for several years. I'd started to develop strong client relationships, built a terrific team. But when the firm asked me to make the move, I thought it was a real breakout opportunity. Coincidentally, I had talked to my husband about potentially doing something overseas, just as a, can you imagine, would you ever want to? And so I think they were more than a little surprised when I said yes. Mm-hmm. I think perhaps it was one of these things where they said, let's just give it a shot. She probably won't do it, but we could say that. But I did, and it was a game changer for me. It was a game changer for me professionally to have to really understand what it was like to operate outside of my comfort zone. It was significant because it was the hardest transition for me. I made some mistakes, big mistakes, and was encouraged not to flee, although I did try. I was like, can I please go back to New York? And my manager at the time just said, I don't think so. You can call me anytime to get help, to get guidance, to be a sounding board, but you cannot call me to quit.
Yeah. Okay, very great.
I think there were a couple of things. I think the first one was when I realized that I was doing something that I enjoyed and that I was good at. And so the normal career path at American Express is to be a general manager, to run and operate a business. And my passion has always been a very external focus, working with customers, solving problems. Today, I just created a group about a year ago where I set the strategy for American Express for all of our strategic partnerships. I manage the largest companies in the world, and I lead the negotiations for the largest deals across American Express. So to be able to do that and be able to separate myself from the pack of people who are on the general management trail, I think has created a unique and differentiated path for me. And so being able to embrace that and being able to be comfortable that I can create my own path without being part of what was the norm was something that I thought was important and I think made a huge difference for me. Because even today, most people are on that path, and I've been doing what I've been doing for over 15 years. I think the second thing was understanding how important it is to have someone there believe in you, right? And there's a difference between people who mentor you, and then there are those people who advocate for you, who put their political capital on the line for you. And those don't always come often. They're not set up. You have to earn that along the way, and you have to recognize when that opportunity exists. And I think I've been fortunate to have recognized those unique opportunities. And they're not always the same. They come and they go. And so being able to capitalize on that. But independent of that is also just believing in myself. And I think that's key and has made a huge difference in my career and in my personal life. Just being centered in who I am, trusting in who I am, and to some extent not giving a damn whether or not people accept that or not.
That's good. So Edith, I want to go back to your answer, because you talked about moving, going to London, and I think that comes up often. Do you feel like in order for you to advance in your career, you do have to be open to relocating? Because I know many people have families and maybe don't have the ability to move location. So how do you help people kind of get their arms around, must I make a move, literally out of state or wherever, to advance forward?
Sure. Well, I would say that it isn't one answer. It's not one path. I thought it was important for me because it gave me more room to really grow, and it worked for my family. I will tell you that if the conversation that I had with my husband had gone differently, if he weren't able to be flexible with his work, if my children did not we didn't find schools for our children that worked, it would have been a much harder decision. And so what I'm saying is that it depends. If you go and all of the things that are important to you are there, if you see the forward path, if you're going to enjoy it, if it's a place where you can live, great. But if it causes a lot of stress in your family, and most importantly, if you don't see that it's a job or a departure in your career that's going to be inspiring and interesting to you, you don't have to do it. Part of the thing that we've got to all really think about is, what is our path? What does our portfolio look like? What is yours as an individual? Not what looks good, not what people have done before. There's nobody who's had my path. There's nobody's path that I've had. And so we really have to do the work to think about what we want in our portfolio of life and success.
Yeah, good. So let's kind of switch a little bit, and I think from the tail end of your answer around kind of having an advocate sponsor, let's talk a little bit about the number of people you've probably coached, mentored, sponsored. I mean, I can only imagine probably thousands. And there has to be like a common theme that comes up of something that you often see that is a roadblock that we encounter. Like, what's that common thing that you see, advice that you dole out to people that they always ask you, and did you ever encounter it yourself?
I think we have to get out of our own way, right? And I can speak about that because when I coach people today, there are probably 3 things I talk about now, and I'll tell you why it's different now than it used to be. But I ended by saying you got to believe in yourself, right, and be centered in who you are. And so I always say that. Believe in you, because if you don't believe in you, how can you expect someone else to do that? Be centered in who you are. Know your values, know your limitations, know the boundaries, but don't limit yourself and don't set boundaries that don't allow you to keep moving forward. Believing in yourself means you have to build confidence, and every day you need to remind yourself of who you are and how great you are. And whatever you need to do that, do that. I've had my own strategies in doing that. But confidence then leads to the second thing that I tell people, and that is choose courage. And I say that intentionally. Choose, because I think it's a choice, right? It's about bravery. It's about being daring. It's about taking risk. But the other side of courage is about being vulnerable. It's about practicing humility. And it's about allowing yourself to be broken and then building yourself back up. And that's key because that's where you have your own personal self-discovery, who you are, what matters to you, what you learned from your past, what you want about your present, and how you think about your future. The third thing I say is be intentional. Intentional meaning be deliberate in what you do. And in being deliberate, don't worry so much about whether or not you made the right choice. It's about being present in that moment. We spend a lot of time thinking about what happened yesterday, what I should have said, could have said, did I piss somebody off, what happened? And then we spend a lot of time thinking about tomorrow, planning about whatever. And there's something about being present. There's something about allowing yourself to think, to creating that space to be able to understand what it is you're going through and feeling. And you got to be able to be silent and quiet all the noise around you, all the negativity around you. Now, I believe that there's a real intersection between your personal life and your professional life. And every now and then, I will speak for myself, I guess I'll go here, but you have a collision at that point of your personal and professional life. And I now call that perspective, right? Because what I know to be true is that there was a time, 4 years ago, there was a huge change in my life because what I say to people today is influenced by who I am today. I gave different advice before. I give those 3 pieces of advice because I live it and I practice it every day. So almost 4 years ago, I lost the most important person in my life. Never really talked publicly, but for some reason I'm compelled to. So my husband was Philip. And he supported me, he loved me, he cherished me, and he believed in me. So as I think about where I am today, with that significant loss, I had to start over. I had to believe in me. And if it meant that I had to look myself in the mirror and remind me of who I am and what it means to be me, then I did that. When I think about being courageous, it's about being able to wake up every day and know my strength and be centered in my strength and believe that each day I can be better, I can be stronger. And intent is huge because you can't even imagine waking up every day and having to be strong. I have two beautiful children who have been resilient and supportive. But they've taught me so much about my leadership. They've taught me so much about how to have this journey. Sydney's 24, Carter is 17. And so when I think about my coaching of people, they're central to that. And my journey, my personal journey, and how I have evolved is what is the platform for how I lead today. I lead from a place of seeking peace, giving back, empowering, and letting people know that despite the good, the bad, the ugly, if you believe in yourself, if you find the courage to continue, and if you are deliberate and conscious of where you're going, then the rest will take care of itself.
Very good. Well, thanks for sharing the story.
Sure.
What would you say, just from the coaching, mentoring, sponsorship, like as you think about advice, roadblocks, what comes to mind for you?
Well, it's no surprise to me that a number of the things that Glenda has shared with respect to confidence and being intentional and really finding your center are things that are front and center for me as well. Part of it is those 90 years of life and many years of professional experiences can lead you to the place of really knowing that at the end of the day, you are the person who has to define you. And I often give people advice, starting with myself, that you only have a certain amount of capacity. I've reduced it to 100 brain cells. You've got 100. And you can spend those 100 on a variety of different things. When you start to get yourself using your capacity, your intellectual and your emotional capacity on worrying and being anxious, it's actually not a strategy. It's a reaction, often to what other people do and how other people impact who you think you are and what you are about. It's a waste. It's a waste. It uses your energy in a very unproductive way. And so I've found that the most important thing is not to use those brain cells in response, except with respect to client relationships, but with respect to you and where you're positioned in your career, channel that into things that you can control. And what are the things that you can control? You can control being prepared. I was so thrilled to have an opportunity to spend time with my many, I think there's 40 of us here from Goldman, last night. And by the way, one of the things you should do is to make sure that even though it's 11 o'clock, you go and hang with your community, something that I wish I had done a lot more of. And I would say that it was just thrilling to be with them. It probably wasn't so thrilling to hear about my interactions with them over the years. I really didn't mean it, guys, I really. But often people would say, yeah, I remember that first meeting. I thought I had it together and the questions started, and let me just say, I remember that. And I like that in conversations because I know and I had real empathy for the experience of going into that room with someone you perceived as influential and important and having that nice, yes, looking at the watch, no, I wanted to be present. I wanted to be intentional. And I wanted everyone that I had an interaction with to really know that with preparation, with engagement, you could make a mark. We can make a mark. And so those are the things that often are front and center to my mind. Oh, and there's one other thing. Care. Care about what you're doing. Work to be excellent because you're there because you're excellent. And also, if you want to feel good about yourself and get that confidence, help somebody else, right? Because there is always, always, always someone who's looking at you and going, wow, you know, if I could just have that list of clients, if I could just be able to get through that material, if I could just, when you are there and present for other people, it gives you the confidence to know all that you have to offer. Be there and present for others.
Yeah, that's great, that's great. So yesterday, thank you very much. You know, yesterday, I think you guys saw Carlos Rodriguez was up on the stage, so I'm interested in your reaction to this. And so when Carlos was, I guess, trying to make some changes in the organization, he had reached out to me or called. And I always say you have to be prepared for this question, and I don't know if I was. And so he asked this question of me of, what did I want to do next? And this is coming from the CEO. And so I've always given this guidance of you really do have to have an answer to that question of what's your next move? And you do have to be careful on what you say because you have to be prepared for him to say, okay, that's what you're going to do. Because that's pretty much what happened. Kind of answered the question and voila, we're sitting here. So I don't know, is that, like, have you had sort of moments like that where, I don't know, CEO or otherwise have sort of given you that challenging question and you needed to be prepared to, I don't know, I guess sort of rise to the challenge?
Over the years, I've gotten better at this. Hamada, I'm not sure it's actually not the right answer. My answer now and is what's important to you? Mm-hmm. What is important to you, CEO? What is important to you, President, COO? What is important to you, my boss, my manager? And what is going to make a difference in this organization? Mm-hmm. Because I believe that many people have multiple talents. Mm-hmm. And I am always prepared to share with folks what my talents and strengths are. Mm-hmm. So what's important to you? The other thing is okay, now this is a little edgy, what will you pay a lot for? Mm. And that's an epiphany that I've come to, more recently. And the reason is because when you work in an organization that really has a principle of accountability, right? If you perform, you are recognized. You are recognized for your performance, your group's performance, your divisions, and ultimately, in any organization, you will do as well or as poorly as the strength of the overall organization. But I will tell you that in an organization that is incredibly commercially oriented, if you want to know what's really valued, look at who gets paid. And look at how much you get paid. And that's a hard thing because honestly, there's a lot that goes into a portfolio of recognition, mm-hmm. right? One, you have to love what you're doing. You have to thrive at what you're doing. I mean, to get in some job, that's some high profile job that actually you don't want to do or you don't believe that you're going to do well, kind of doesn't work out. But have that conversation and know what that mm-hmm. contract, not literally, but figuratively is, so that you can have full information to make decisions.
Any perspective?
Yeah, it's similar, the first one. The second one, we don't ask about where you pay the most money. That's not a conversation at American Express, but I can understand it at Goldman. But compensation is an important part of the equation. For me, it's about where can I have the greatest impact, mm-hmm. right? What does the business need? So similarly, but where can I have the greatest impact? And I believe that a working relationship, I'm learning this more and more every day, it's a contract, right? It is at will on both sides. And so while I am wanting to know where I can make the greatest impact, It's also important to me to know where I can get the greatest growth, right? Where I can contribute, but where I can also make a difference in my own personal development, but also in developing others.
Yeah, very good, very good. So I'm going to ask this last question, and then I'm going to give you guys a chance. So I asked this question for you to think of some questions for, obviously, for the panel. So as you think about, again, your career, you know, what you've done, the successes, obviously maybe even some failures that you've had along the way, what do you want or hope or aspire to be your everlasting legacy? How do you want us, or anyone, to remember you?
I would say that I want to be remembered in a way that underscores the fact that I tried to live my best authentic self, right? Thank you. You know, oftentimes we try and be we see what success looks like for others, and we try to mimic that, we try to model that, and I believe that there are behaviors we should model, but I think we have to be selective about that. But in that, I've been fortunate. I'm the last of 8 kids. There were 7 girls, 1 boy. I grew up on a farm. My parents didn't, but neither had high school education. They believed in education. They believed in me, and so it's made a huge difference. But what they also gave me was a sense of self. And that was a combination of my parents, and I had 6 sisters, so it was like I had 7 mothers, and then I had a brother. And being the last had some advantages and disadvantages. I think I was grown and married before I had my own clothes purchased for me because I had 6 sisters. But it also, I learned from their mistakes, right? Because I think the power of listening and watching can never be underestimated. And then choosing from that which will benefit you. So I am that person who was taught that we all put our pants on the same way, right? So luck, age, opportunity, that's what differentiates you from them. I was told recently by someone at American Express, they'd been to a conference and Shonda Rhimes was there, and she talked about the fact that, you know, whenever she's in a room, she feels comfortable there. And this person said, you know, I was reminded of you because I don't know of a room where you don't think you belong. So I thought that was a compliment. And I give that back to all the people who have loved me and supported me personally and professionally. And it has allowed me to be who I am. The reality is I really don't know how to be anybody else. But what you learn is that the best you can be is you. You can practice being somebody else. You can put on and try on different behaviors and attitudes and personalities. But it's about the practice of being who you are at your core, accepting that, believing in that, being centered in that, and learning from that position, and then empowering others by modeling that strong behavior. I talked earlier, there's something to be said about, you know, being courageous and badass and all those other things, but being authentic is also showing who you are at your core, and that means that you can be vulnerable and that you can be broken and that you can build yourself back up. And each time, just being aware of who you are and who you want to be and being able to leave that for others. And I think there's a lot of power in seeing people who have that confidence to be themselves at work and at home. And that's how I want to be remembered, that I was me every day. Wonderful. And I was happy about being me.
Edith, how about yourself?
So I'm living the legacy in a way. I announced in September that I would be leaving the firm, retiring after an incredible 2 decades of learning and listening and hopefully impacting people within the firm and outside of the firm. And it has been extraordinary because I have seen through people's interactions that when you take the time to really pay attention to people and really give people the real true feeling that in interacting with them, you're growing and benefited, as I have for so many years with so many people, that it is empowering. It's really empowering. I hope that my legacy is that I really cared and that I owned and understood my responsibility to leverage any success that I've had in my career for the benefit of the broader organization, but also specifically for our community. You know, how could it be that I am one of the most senior people at a firm like Goldman Sachs and running all of the people activities? It's a human capital business. That's what I did with so many of my colleagues in human capital management. We provided the engine for that firm. How could I have that responsibility and not be aware of my personal responsibility and the firm's responsibility, quite frankly, to be involved in things that were seriously impacting our people in our community? How could it be that in the 20 years that I've been at the firm, you know, we really never got down into a real conversation about race? How could that be? It was not going to be the case on my watch because I really truly believed that I was in my seat because of the hard work, the edginess, the advocacy that others had provided for me. And so, you know, I hope that in the time that I've been at the firm and in my future, I continue to own and that responsibility, that passion, that commitment I have to really get people to understand our extraordinary, extraordinary greatness. I hope that I've been able to do that, and I know that with all of my might, I will continue to try to do it going forward.
Okay. Well, I'm sure based off the answers that you both gave, I think we'll all remember definitely your powerful words, and the legacy will last, no question. So let's open it up. Let's turn the lights up and see if we have any questions for the panel before we kind of close out. Let's see, a question over in the back.
Good morning, and thank you, ladies. So, did you experience imposter syndrome, and what did you do to navigate it?
Glenda never did.
No, we all do. I did. I did, right? Of course, of course. So recognize it, right? And the power of questioning. Be aware of when it is, why it is, right? You always, that's where doubt comes in, right? Am I supposed to be here? You know, I look at my life and I say, no, I wasn't supposed to be here. People believe that too, right? So how do you get away from it? You learn, you perform, you believe in yourself, and you remind yourself of your own personal power. And as people say, you know, some people say, fake it till you make it. Yeah, we walk into a room. I mean, I can remember, you know, having the responsibility of going in and talking to CEOs and negotiating contracts with people, right? And they never looked like me. And, you know, there's a question, you know, do you ever feel as though because you're African American or you're a woman that people, you know, don't really know? So we were talking at breakfast about somebody handing the coat, right? Because They thought Edith was the person who would hang the coat as opposed to the top person in the firm. And I believe that, it's our responsibility to make sure people understand what our roles are. And so, I joke sometimes and say, well, they might not know when they first see me, but before, in the next 2-3 minutes, it's very clear, no doubt. And when I leave, it's crystal, right? So, yes, we all have the doubts. We all have to figure out how to get over that hump. Lean on yourself or lean on a friend and have that, having conversations. We talked yesterday about, we're across the street, wasn't always frequent, but when we sat down across the table from each other at lunch, right, our stories were similar, right, in terms of exactly that or the challenges that we faced. So accept it for what it is, learn from it, perform, and go.
Yeah, I would just, echo and support what you're saying, Glenda, and really stress the fact that in the moment where we're here, and I'm just so honored, we're all honored to be spending this time with you. So you might think, wow, I got to get that swagger. They have it all the time. I certainly do not. I just don't. And I have over the years been able to develop moves and strengths that don't make it apparent, right? Despite the fact that I'm still having those dreams about trying to find the exam room in college, and you can't find the room, and you don't have your books, and you've never been to class, and I was so relieved when I realized other people were having the same dreams, that it wasn't just me. The truth of the matter is, you've got to put yourself out there and feel vulnerable and take risks to grow. But don't ever think that if it's hard, it means you can't do it. Because you just have to figure out the strategies, whatever games you need to play in your head, do it. And it gets easier. That's the other thing that I like to say. I think about circumstances like this. If someone had said to me 20 years ago that I would be excited about sharing my experiences with this group of people, I would have said absolutely not. I was that person sitting in the back of the room in a meeting. I was that person who looked down, played with my fingers, hope no one asked me a question, until someone finally said, who are you? Who are you? You are not the person that I know you to be. Get out of your seat in the back of the room, move to the front of the room, and get ready. Because I am going to give you and force you to have those opportunities so that you can do what I know you can do. Mm-hmm.
Do you have another question?
Hi. Hi, Pam Jennings from ADP. You both talked about getting results, and we know there's unique opportunities as diverse leaders leading teams. Can you share any differences you've noticed in developing high-performing teams, and any challenges in terms of being a diverse leader in the environments that you're in?
Sure. So I'll give you some specific examples of how we've evolved at Goldman, and how I think the industry and you as potential extraordinary talent looking at organizations are forcing us to evolve. We've been, and we talked about this again, on this journey of really creating diverse, extraordinary organizations for a very, 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 very long time. And for those of us who are in the business of people, you can kind of see the moves. It's like, okay, it's time to mentor more. Ooh, that doesn't work. Let's rename it. Let's call it sponsor. And all of these things are very different. But for us, a real game changer was to pause and step back and say, what have we done? And how are we going to measure impact? How are we going to measure impact? There's no enterprise that just does things and hopes for the best and disregards whether you're actually making progress. And so we really started to understand that we had to really get under the hood and look at the data. Yes, the data of what the numbers are at every level, because that's pretty telling, actually. You could do a lot of work, but if you're not moving the needle, then you need to change it up. But also, what is creating experiences that work for some, that may not work for others? What is the data around how managers and leaders, from the majority, or not, but for the majority for right now, are impacting the experiences of diverse people, right? We can coach and mentor and sponsor us as much, and we should. But we also have to really be honest with ourselves about the cultural things that are going on that make it harder for us and easier for others. And so those are some of the examples of how I believe that we're really moving the needle to make progress. The other thing that's really happened is that the demands and the expectations of people at work are very different. You know, Glenda made a really good point about compensation. It is a factor. And I think we all kind of like to get paychecks, but it's not the only thing. And increasingly, when people are coming into the workplace, they are asking real questions. What is my work? How am I contributing, not just to the firm, but to the community? What is the purpose? What's the purpose of what I'm doing? 70% of Goldman Sachs out of 35,000 people are between 22 and 35. And let me tell you that 70% is holding us accountable in a way that, quite frankly, is going to help us move the needle.
Very good.
So things have changed a lot, right? The millennial population is growing at rapid speed, and their expectations are great. But we still have to remember that there's another whole set of people who've been with us for a long time, right? And so we need to make sure that we're balanced in terms of how we lead. As an African-American diverse woman who, without my stilettos, are about 5'1", and soaking wet, I won't tell you what my weight is, but, right? So there's
Please don't. No. We don't need to hear that.
You walk in a room, and there's a perception, right? There is a perception. And when they don't look like you, right, you have to be thoughtful about how you lead. So particularly for the people who work for me, with me, I really try and create a safe place, right? I try to create a safe place that allows them to see what humility looks like, what bold looks like. I try not to do what crazy looks like too often, but sometimes you got to cross that line. But it is about pushing, right? Developing people. Whether you're an African-American woman who works with me every day, shout out to Leslie out there, and Sarah, because she's my lawyer, but it is about creating an opportunity for people to be their best selves and not to judge them, but to help navigate and lead and guide and coach. And it's, you know, sometimes you learn from what you experience, and sometimes you learn from the gaps in your own journey. And I try to combine those things. And so I think as a female leader who happens to be African American, I believe that the people who work with you at the broadest level, and that's, to me, it's clients and everybody, it's about what you give to them every day, right? And you try to give a little bit more than what you take.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, ladies, well, I think we're done. So really, thank you very much, Glenda, Edith, for your time, your insights, perspectives, incredibly helpful. And ladies, we wish you the enjoyment for the rest of the conference. So thank you all very much.
I just want to say one thing.
One more thing.
One last thing, because I think Edith got the opportunity and Debbie got the opportunity. I'd like to thank BE. I'd like to thank Butch and Caroline and Roberta, because BE, for me, is more than just what we say we're family. No, BE is family to me. I can remember being at Wharton and meeting Roberta and a friend of ours named Valerie, and then meeting Butch, and being a part of that family for so many years. Barbara Graves, Earl Graves, and last night was emotional for me because your mother was a role model for many people, but she was definitely someone who, being far away from my mother, I felt very much attached to her, and seeing her strength, witnessing her love for her children, and your parents just opening their hearts and their arms and their homes to so many people has meant so much to me, and I think to many people. But I want to give you a heartfelt thanks for the many years of your friendship, your love, your support, and the opportunity to speak today, but more importantly, just for who you have been in my life. So thank you guys, and that's it.
Okay. Thank you, ladies. Oh my.
I'm a mess.
Debbie, Glenda, and Edith, thank you so very, very much. Please join me in giving them a round of applause. So ladies, head to your sessions, enjoy the day, and meet us back here at 12:30 for the Power Lunch hosted by Pfizer. See you all later. Thank you.